Now, a couple of weeks ago, Palworld took the gaming world by storm with millions of people on Steam and Game Pass deciding to give it a go and breaking various records in the process. The game is currently being paired to Pokemon and Ark, understandably, but for now at least, the game remains in early access mode, meaning in the coming months and years, it could see much needed bug fixes and improvements along with some additional features added to the game. But the big news is, Pocket Bear have released their roadmap for Palworld, which will absolutely take the game to its next level. And to top it off, I've added some wishlist items of my own to take it even beyond that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get stuck in. So it's important to note that before any of the following features are added to the game, Pocket Pair will first be focusing on critical fixes to make the overall environment of the game more stable and less buggy. And that's how it should be done, because there is no point in adding new features to a game when there are already a bunch of glaring bugs that need addressing. And after those fixes, the next items on their agenda are to fix configuration improvements and PAL AI and pathing, which again is needed before any of the new features added. But anyway, that's not really that interesting. Let's move on to the new features because that is, of course, where it gets more interesting. And first things first, Pocket Pair are planning on introducing PvP to Palworld, and I, for one, am very excited about the prospect of being able to go head to head against other players with my pals, but it needs to be done right. Like, there shouldn't be an instance where we can just spam pal spheres to take out other pals out of the equation for a short time. They may introduce something like, I don't know, a sphere cooldown. Maybe you're only allowed to use a sphere, 3 times per battle? Or maybe if you have less than a certain percentage chance of catching said pal, the sphere will just bounce off them anyway. So basically, as long as all of this is thought out before they introduce PvP, I'm sure it'll be great fun. It's also unclear whether or not it's going to be 1v1 or if they'll be able to go head to head on teams with, say, I don't know, 4 people, because that's the current number of players you can play with in multiplayer mode. It's sure to be a lot of fun either way, but as long as they iron out any potential issues that we can see from the outset. The next item on the agenda is PAL Arenas, so PAL PvP. Now where have I heard that one before? Now, this one can still be PvP against other players or NPCs, just without you also getting involved with your guns, arrows, and God knows what other weapons you have up your sleeve. It'll purely be PAL versus PAL, which, let's be honest, is Pokemon reincarnated. Now, I'm not complaining about that because I played Pokemon to death for years and years when I was younger and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Perhaps that helps explain why I'm also loving Palworld right now. But this feature being on the roadmap was kind of a given, I think. It was something that almost all of us would have expected to be added into the game sooner rather than later. It's sure to be great fun though, as you test your best level up pals against other players' pals. Now, raid bosses and endgame content is up next, but it's not clear what exactly the endgame content is just yet. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that, but it could involve bosses of raiders with some souped up pal that is a fecking nightmare to defeat. Either way, I'm sure it'll be a good challenge, a bit like facing Zoe after the tutorial, which was super difficult, unless you go in well prepared and a higher level with better weapons and better leveled up pals. The boss battle in Palworld are already great along with the raids, so the more of that, the better. Another addition you probably expected to see sometime in the future would be new pals, new bosses, new technology, and new islands. This of course goes without saying, but hopefully with the absolute boatload of money they've gained so far, with the game being incredibly successful, they can hire some creative designers, artists who come up with some brand new pals who don't look like their Pokemon counterparts. I'm pretty confident they'll be able to, but this also includes new bosses who I suspect will be part of the new pals rather than making existing pals into bosses, but as the boss fights in the game are already a great bunch of fun, I'm more than happy for new bosses to be introduced into the game as well. So, as I said, also included as part of this list is new islands for the world map, which sounds pretty cool. Now, the world is already pretty big, and adding new islands without fleshing out the existing map would be a misstep in my opinion. Though, by the sounds of some of the features they'll be adding before this one comes along, the map should be more than fleshed out by the time they get this far, with arenas, new raids and bosses, some more islands if the map feels less empty. Then yes please, I can certainly get on board with that. The final item on this new stuff list was new technology. Now, I suspect this will be mainly centered around base building, which, by the way, is also down on the roadmap as improvements to the base building system. But it may also include new technologies for weapons, or perhaps pals, skills, and attacks, and all of that good stuff. The fact you can already shoot a penguin out of a bazooka gets me excited for what other technologies and weapons they can come up with to make this game even more bizarre, but also incredibly fun at the same time. Now, something I've wanted added to the game so I can play with some of my mates who are PC Master Race gamers, as I'm on Xbox, is crossplay. So I'm over the moon that Pocket Pair are intending to add crossplay into the game. But one other feature they're also going to add in, which is just as important, if not more so, is server transfers and migration. So I believe this means that if we migrate over to another server to play with our friends, we can also go over there with the same level, pals, weapons, skills, and so on, so we're not having to start over in their world from scratch. It's another barrier that's stopping some players from getting into multiplayer because they'll have to spend a good amount of time leveling up their own world and they'll lose all that progress. So this one is definitely needed sooner rather than later. Now, it all sounds fucking great, that roadmap, doesn't it? And it will certainly make Palworld even more fun than it already is. And on top of that, I've got a few extra features, I suppose you could call it a wish list of features actually, that I think should be added into the future game as well, to make it, well, even better, somehow. First up, I'd love to be able to have some sort of story, or have missions that I can undertake without having to use my PAL box, and it being revolved entirely around expanding my base. Like, I'd love to be able to engage with random NPCs rather than them just having a small chat like they do now. So instead, they'd have us go off on a whole host of different quests to catch, catch rare pals, maybe rescue pals whilst defeating a boss, more things like that. Like, the lore in Palworld seems pretty minuscule in its current form, but again, it is early access. But fleshing this out along with adding more quests is pretty high up on my list of priorities for the game. It'll certainly add a deeper sense of immersion to Palworld, but of course, baby steps like fixing bugs are needed first. A small one now, but how about having some puzzles or mini games around the world that we can complete or solve with our pals to gain special rewards? I think that would be a little neat addition and just a little bit of an extra, fun and something to do in the game. And that leads me nicely onto this next one, where I'd just like the world to be, a little more fleshed out with things like raider camps, settlements with NPCs to give us quests, other random encounters, and all of that good stuff, just to make the game world feel a little more active and full. Now, I know and appreciate that the game is still in early access, and I know it's a small development team behind Palworld, at least at the moment, so I'm not exactly expecting these to be added instantly. I mean, I can pass many hours in this game whilst having a blast in its current form. So just the fact that I know they're planning on making improvements first and then adding new features excites me a lot, and I cannot wait to see where this game ends up going in the future. And now that I've gone over the Pocket Pair roadmap, along with a few small extra additions to the game that I'd personally like to see, as well, is there anything that you guys would like to see that I haven't covered in this video or that hasn't been covered by the Pocket Pair roadmap that we've already seen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think and have in mind for the game in the future. And there you have it, folks. There are a bunch of features that will be added to the early access version of Palworld that would take it to the next level, along with some wishlist items from yours truly. What do you think of the upcoming roadmap, along with my suggestions? I'd love to know what you think. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I shall catch you in the next one.